Yeah, so my name's Bethany, and I work for West Cumbria Rivers Trust, and I'm a project officer, and I work predominantly in the Cocker Catchment. So at West Cumbria Rivers Trust, we have designated areas that we work in, and I work predominantly in the Cocker, so I'm able to know one of the areas involved in this project. This is just a quick bit about us as a trust. So yeah, so we cover West Cumbria, as you can probably imagine from the name, and the main catchments involved in that, which covers this area, and we're predominantly thinking sort of about the Derwent catchment, which is part of where the Cocker, Derwent, the Glendamachin, and also the Marron further down as well flows into the Derwent as well. So as a trust, we're different to the Environment Agency in that we have no statutory or regulatory authority. We're a charity, so we rely on funding from external sources, sometimes the Environment Agency, but also other governmental departments, the lottery, and private finance as well. It's increasingly popular these days. So we're a charity, and broadly speaking, our aim is to improve water quality and enhance our rivers and the habitats around our rivers and our watery blue spaces more broadly as well, so wetlands, lakes, etc. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the mouse moving around.
I'm just trying to get rid of that part. Stop fiddling.
So as a trust, we don't actually own any land ourselves. So anything that we deliver and do has to be done in partnership and in collaboration with other people, specifically landowners who want to work with us, other organisations, and things like that. So we're very much reliant on goodwill and funding from external sources to be able to actually to deliver anything. But having said that, we do have quite a good success rate as West Cumbria Rivers Trust. We're one of the biggest rivers trusts in the country. There's over 40 rivers trusts in the movement, we call it, across the whole country. And we're just one of those, but we have 30 plus staff, which is sort of considerably bigger than the other rivers trusts, which is hopefully a good sign that we're doing good things. So what do? We do a huge variety of different things. This is a bit of a snapshot of the kind of stuff that we get up to mainly in the Cocker Catchment. So we do what you would sort of consider, does this have a pointer? We do your sort of like, sort of renaturalisation of becks and things like this. So this is a beck that was culverted in the Cocker Catchment, and we daylighted it, and it now runs across the field. And that was done in 2021, and it's really well established now. And we work with farmers to deliver water quality improvements. So this middle picture, that's a water crossing, which was sort of a muddy beck crossing where livestock and farm machinery were running through and sort of causing pollution. So we sort of help by funding and helping design infrastructure such as that to improve water quality. We do monitoring of lakes, so that's a picture of Lowes water, and you can see the mud, for want of a better word, rushing into Lowes water from one of the tributaries on there. So we do water quality monitoring of different water courses and places. When we have funding to do it, it's very hard to get funding for monitoring, but when we're able to, we try to do that. We have an electrofishing survey season where we have 190 sites across the whole of the Derwent catchment where we regularly monitor fish numbers, so we can sort of try and keep track on their levels and how they're doing. And they're a very good indicator of the overall health of our rivers and what things we might want to be working on improving. The middle picture sort of represents quite a few things. Obviously, tree planting. We work on what we call a catchment scale approach. So while our primary focus and our sort of aim is our blue spaces, our rivers, our marshes, etc., those things are impacted by the whole landscape in which we live. Any water that falls on the top of Honister Pass will ultimately run down and join the River Cocker at some point. So we're interested in everything that happens between it hitting the top of those fells and arriving in those rivers. So that does sometimes include work quite a long way away for our rivers, which might not be something that you'd ordinarily think about. And the other thing that's in there is we do a lot of natural flood management. When we started work in the Cocker Catchment initially, that was through a natural flood management project. So for those of you that aren't aware, natural flood management is sort of when a place has sort of reached its ability to do great the structure, sort of more typical flood defences, to sort of look out into the catchment to see if there's possibility to store water further back out in the landscape and reduce the sort of the pressures on our towns and villages that have sort of flood risk, which as people who live around here, you'll all be too familiar with. And then finally, in the Cocker Catchment, we have a farmer group, which meets roughly about once a month. And we do workshops, talks, and share best practice and things like that to be able to get together as well. So that's a very whistle-stop tour of the stuff we sort of get up to locally. Beyond this, we do have an education team that goes out into schools and delivers things as well, but that's sort of a bit more separate to the area we're working in. So a very brief case study I was asked to provide just to sort of capture kind of things we do. So this is Lowes Water above Water, you can see in the background there. And this picture here shows 3 ponds that we have put in September in a field just outside Lowes Water. And the reason I wanted to show you this project, because I think it shows quite a nicely the kind of things that we sort of get up to in sort of terms of practical delivery. So this area was an area that was really dominated by soft brush. And anyone who's ever done anything with farming or around here knows that soft brush is very hard, very persistent, very difficult to get rid of. So it wasn't a particular value to the farmer in question. So we sort of had conversations with them and decided that actually we could transform this into a bit more of a wetland. So the first thing we did, it was actually this little bit here, was an historic fish pond. It had been a fish pond since the Middle Ages, apparently. So we restored that initially, which was quite nice, as the first step of the project. And then the year after, we came back and dug the next 3 ponds, which are predominantly wildlife. So these 2 are what we call online ponds, which means they're connected to a small tributary. And this one is what we call an offline pond, which means basically it's not connected. And it's important to have those 2 different habitats because it supports different life forms. There's a picture of the diggers doing the work back in September. So we use local contractors wherever we can. And out of this project as well, which was actually funded by FIMPL, Farming and Protected Landscapes, we also had a countryside stewardship scheme which paid for the restoration of these hedges which go around the site as well. So it was quite a nice mix of different funding coming together. The landowner was really on board and helped with a lot of the applications, sort of had to upfront the capital costs initially and then claim them back. So it's quite a big undertaking from their side as well. And we got a lot of different groups out involved in the delivery of it. So these are a picture of, I think it's the National Park Youth Panel planting some of the hedges that we put in around the side. And the scouts came and planted some wildflowers around the historic pond, because the historic pond is going to be fenced off from livestock, whereas the wetland area, that's still going to maintain being grazed. So we planted some different sort of wetland species around the with the help of the scouts, and only 1 scout fell in the pond, so it was a roaring success. What was less of a roaring success, unfortunately, is the Himalayan balsam in this area is extraordinary. I went back to sort of survey and see what plants had taken the following summer. Unfortunately, because there was so much balsam, a lot of them had been shaded out. But it is something we're trying on top of everything else to get on top of. But yeah, you live around here, you know it's a considerable problem. I won't go too much on about this. This is just sort of the pressures that we face as a catchment. What time have I got?
You've got a minute.
I'll skip over that and say thank you.